Yo, what is up, guys? It's NFL Roster Guru back for another video. And today we'll be going over all the free agency moves from the last 2 days. So let's dive right into the moves. And then at the end of the video, I will show you guys how to download the roster. Starting off the Bears, they didn't do anything. The Bengals, they did not do anything either. The Bills, oh no, the Bills, they did something. First off, they signed a running back in Darrington Evans from the Chicago Bears. They also signed a strong safety from the Washington Commanders, actually, no, free safety in Derek Forrest. They also signed two defensive players in Larry Ogunjobi and Joey Bosa, which should be a big addition to the team this year. Moving on to the next team, the Denver Broncos. They signed two players, including Trent Sherfield from the Minnesota Vikings, and they also signed Evan Ingram from free agency. The next team is the Cleveland Browns, where they signed Joe Shion Trainka, a left outside linebacker from Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and a left tackle in Cornelius Lucas III, and a defensive tackle in Malik Collins from the 49ers. He was a cap casualty. Moving on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they signed one person, and that is a punter. The former Broncos punter, Riley Dixon, is now a Tampa Bay Buccaneers punter. The Cardinals signed two players in quarterback Jacoby Brissett, the former Patriot, and Malachi Walker from the Commanders, middle linebacker. Moving on to the Chargers, they signed two players and Najee Harris, which should be a great addition to their team, and Benjamin St. Juice from the Commanders, right here. Moving on to the Kansas City Chiefs, they signed three players, one of them from free agency, and two were just regular signings. The free agency signing was Christian Fulton, and the other two signings were just Robert Tonyan and middle linebacker Cole Christensen. Moving on to the Indianapolis Colts, they signed two players, including Daniel Jones is now a Colt, and also Khalil Herbert is a Colt now, former Bengal. Moving on to the Commanders, they signed a few players. First off, they actually just signed Dietrich Schweiz right now from the Patriots. They also signed uh, Jonathan Jones from the Patriots and Eddie Goldman from the Falcons. Defensive tackle, strong safety Will Harris, and they just signed a regular signing. They signed Kevin Seymour, former Raven. Moving on to the Cowboys, they were busy today in signing Peyton Turner, left end, to replace Demarcus Lawrence, who we'll get to later in the video. And they signed Robert Jones, a left guard, former Dolphin, and defensive tackle Solomon Thomas from the Jets. And they made two trades today. But first, they signed Jack Sanborn from the Chicago Bears, and they made a trade with the Tennessee Titans to acquire Kenneth Murray Jr. They traded some draft picks for him, and they also got Kyer Elam from the Buffalo Bills. Moving on to the next team is the Miami Dolphins, who signed one, two, three, four, five players. First player we will mention is, let's see, oh yeah, James. No, not Brent James. Yeah, James Daniels. Now they got two Daniels on the team. It's crazy. They got a right guard, former Pittsburgh Steeler. They also got Larry Broom from the Chicago Bears. They also got Nick Westbrook-Akine from the Tennessee Titans. Moving on, they also signed Ashton Davis from the Jets, and Ifaki Melawapo, or whatever. Interesting name. He's from the Lions. Moving on to the Philadelphia Eagles, they signed one player from free agency, and that was Quadzilla, AJ Dillon. And they also made a trade, and they acquired Kenyon Green from the Texans in a trade with CJ Gardner Johnson involved. Moving on to the Atlanta Falcons, they made three moves. First of which being they signed Devon Diablo from the Las Vegas Raiders, and they also signed a Mike Ford Jr. from the Cleveland Browns, and they signed one of the 49ers cap casualties in, let me find him, in Leonard Floyd. Moving on to the 49ers, who actually did a decent amount of moves to try to get themselves back to where they were before. They cut two players, Leonard Floyd and Kyle Juszczyk is no longer on the team. So you go to fullback now, not there. Hopefully another team can pick him up. Pretty good fullback. Moving on to strong safety for the 49ers. They signed Richie Grant, and at free safety, they signed Jason Pinnock from the Giants. Richie Grant's from the Falcons. So those will be their new two replacement safeties. Moving on to cornerback, they signed Trey Brown from the Seattle Seahawks, and middle linebacker they signed Luke Gifford. They also signed. The last thing they did was they signed former Ram Demarcus Robinson. Maybe they're trying to find somebody that can replace Devo or anybody. They might sign a rookie or something. Moving on to the Giants, they made a decent amount of moves. Most importantly, they signed Javon Hollins, free safety from the Miami Dolphins. They signed Chauncey Gardner Johnson, uh, Chauncey Golston, middle linebacker Chris Board from the Baltimore Ravens, and right tackle Stone Forstiff from the Seattle Seahawks. Left tackle James Hudson the third from the Cleveland Browns, and I think I went over all the Giants players. Moving on to the Jets, because the Jaguars did not do anything. They did everything on the first day of free agency. The Jets signed three players. First being Josh Myers from the Packers, and then Andre Cisco from the Jaguars. They cut middle linebacker C.J. Mosley, and they signed right end Rashad Weaver. But this was a regular signing. This wasn't one of like the free agency signings, like free agency frenzy. This was just a normal signing. Moving on to the Lions, they only signed two players: left outside linebacker Grant Strud and defensive tackle Roy Lopez. Moving on to the Carolina Panthers, Packers didn't do anything. Uh, they they cut Miles Sanders, and wonder who they signed as to replace him? Rico Dowdle. I think that was a great signing. They also signed middle linebacker Christian Rosenboom, and they got rid of Johnny Hicker. So now they have Sam Martin as their punter. Moving on to the, let's see, Patriots didn't do anything. They did everything on the first day. The Raiders, they signed cornerback Lonnie John, Lonnie Johnson Jr. and they got Eric Stokes. Those are the two moves they made. Moving on to the Los Angeles Rams, they made only one move, and that was to sign a center. Former Ram, now current Ram, Coleman Shelton from the Bears. He reunites the Rams. Moving on to the Ravens, they cut Arthur Millette, and they also cut Marcus Williams. He's not there anymore. They signed middle linebacker Jacob Holland from the Rams. And they also signed DeAndre Hopkins, which I thought was a pretty interesting signing. Um, Moving on to the Saints, they made a singular signing, but I think it was a pretty good one and a well needed one. They went from Will Harris at strong safety to Justin Reed. That's a great signing. Moving on to the Seahawks, I mentioned earlier in the video about DeMarcus Lawrence leaving the Cowboys. He's a Seahawk now. And also on the Seahawks is Josh Jacobs, left tackle from the Ravens. He used to back up Ronnie Stanley. Now he'll back up Charles Cross. Um, Another person, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. You look at the Seahawks receiver room. Jackson Smith and Jigba is clearly the best one. They just need to get someone at wide receiver too. Because seriously, it's going to be a rough season for the Seahawks. Moving on to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They signed two players. One of them was Brandon Eccles from the New York Jets. Right there. And Kenneth Gainwell from the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. Moving on to the Houston Texans. Did a decent amount of moves. They signed left guard Laken Tomlinson to replace the left guard they traded away. And what's his name? Let me check. Forget his name because he was like the most random player you could trade someone for. Oh yeah, Kenyon Green. They traded their backup left guard for Chauncey Gardner Johnson. I mean C.J. Gardner Johnson. Um, yes, they did get C.J. Gardner Johnson. Here he is. Uh, they also just signed Casey Toohill, but this was a regular signing. Um, they also signed Nick Neiman from the Los Angeles Chargers, and those are all the moves Texans made. Moving on to the Tennessee Titans. Let's see, what did the Titans do? Well, they made a decent amount of moves. First of all, they signed punter Johnny Hecker. Doesn't really make sense. They got a young punter in Ryan Stonehouse. He's pretty good. Another signing the Titans did was they signed Van Jefferson as well as right guard Kevin Zeitler. Pretty good guy. Uh, they also signed Blake Hentz from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Division signing. They also signed Xavier Woods from the, let's see, Carolina Panthers. Interesting signing. Um, Draymond Jones just recently signed with the Titans. He was a cap casualty from the Seahawks. He now goes to Tennessee, and they probably needed him because they had like these guys. And moving on to our final team in the Minnesota Vikings, and then I'll show you guys how to download the roster. So they made four moves. They signed Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave, and they also signed right guard Will Fries and cornerback. Let me find him. Oh wait, no, not cornerback. He's free safety. Travion Thomas is trying to replace Cam Bynum. And those were all the moves, guys. So now let's get into the real thing that you came here for, and that's how to download this roster. All right. So first, you guys know the drill. So you're right here, like Madden News. You go to Creation Center, Download Center, and now you want to go to Rosters, hit the triangle to search, and then search by username or keywords. Let's do keywords. Type in Madden 25. See, then V1 because this is my first version, and then my roster will come up. You download it. You go over to load and delete files. Then you go over here to roster. You hit that, hit yes, hit OK, and you should get the roster. And disclaimer, guys, guess what this roster has? It doesn't just have all this. Guess what? It has a ton of rookies. Guys, I've been grinding so hard. I want you guys to like and subscribe so I can make all these videos better as time goes on. So that's all I had to say today, guys. Peace.